A single millionaire, his heart frozen after the pain of losing his wife, watched a poor waitress tightly embrace his disabled son when the boy fell. In that moment, Daniel Harper felt the world tilt, not because of Lucas's fall, but because of Ava's gentle gaze, like a flame warming the loneliness he had buried. Who was she, this woman, daring to touch his deepest wound? Could a simple act break down the wall he had built? Before we dive into a story that will keep you glued to the screen, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you love inspiring stories, and don't forget to leave a comment letting me know. Where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? It always feels amazing to see the whole world come together just to share a meaningful moment. In the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina, the Sunrise Diner nestled along a fog-draped road, where the smell of slightly burnt toast mingled with the bitter aroma of coffee, like a whispered comfort amid weary days. The old wooden tables, etched with scratches as if holding untold stories, stood beside worn leather chairs that creaked under the weight of familiar patrons. But the real warmth came from the smiles of the servers, melting away the chill of dawn. Every Saturday morning, as the first rays of sunlight peeked through, a sleek black SUV glided up, silent as a shadow. Daniel Harper stepped out, his navy blue suit crisp and cold, his eyes harboring an unnamed pain. He pushed the wheelchair of Lucas, his 6-year-old son, whose sparkling blue eyes shimmered like a lake, though his halting voice was restrained by congenital cerebral palsy. They quietly entered, choosing the table by the window, where soft golden light fell on Lucas's face, highlighting a fragile smile like crystal. Daniel Harper, a real estate millionaire once celebrated on magazine covers, was now just a father with a broken heart. He ordered the usual: fried eggs for himself, waffles drizzled with honey for Lucas. The fingers that once signed million-dollar deals now carefully cut the waffle into small pieces, feeding his son with a tenderness as if afraid to break something precious. But his eyes never left Lucas, as if a single blink could lose the boy forever. 4 years ago, a car accident had taken Emily, the wife he loved more than the world, and left Lucas with irreversible brain damage. Since then, Daniel had locked his heart, left only with endless days buried in work and the responsibility of caring for Lucas. The Sunrise Diner, with its simple warmth, was the only place he allowed himself to stop running, even if just for a moment, where he could pretend everything was still okay. Meanwhile, Ava Thompson, the 24-year-old waitress, moved between tables like a breeze. Her brown hair tied high, swaying, her yellow apron dotted with tiny daisies as if carrying sunlight itself. Her smile was a flame warming every corner of the diner, hiding the deep cracks in her soul. Ava served, cleaned, and offered friendly nods, but her worn-out sneakers and the fleeting exhaustion in her eyes betrayed a life weighed down by burdens. In a small apartment in Asheville's Old District, her father, a former journalist, battled Parkinson's, each trembling step carving pain deeper into her heart. Ava had once dreamed of writing stories that changed the world, but those dreams were buried under a mountain of medical bills. She worked double shifts, surviving on fragmented sleep, yet her smile never faded. When Daniel and Lucas entered, she greeted them with a radiant voice. "Good morning, gentlemen," and brought waffles and fried eggs before they even spoke. Ava watched Lucas, her eyes sparkling as the boy took a bite of waffle, and her heart stirred when Daniel wiped honey from his son's chin. In the small space of the Sunrise Diner, 3 people, each carrying an unhealed wound, unknowingly brushed against one another, like lost puzzle pieces awaiting a destined moment to form a complete picture. On Saturday morning, a light drizzle fell outside the Sunrise Diner, where Daniel Harper and Lucas had just settled at their usual window-side table, the faint light illuminating the 6-year-old's face, highlighting his sparkling but anxious blue eyes. Daniel, in his navy blue suit, his gaze still holding the pain from the accident 4 years ago, carefully cut honey-drizzled waffles for Lucas, each motion like a silent apology to his son. But today, Lucas was restless, his small hands flailing, his halting voice making garbled sounds, as if grappling with an emotional wave he himself didn't understand. Daniel, his heart heavy, gently patted his son's shoulder, trying to soothe him with the rare tenderness he still possessed. But his eyes betrayed helplessness, as if fearing his love wasn't enough to calm Lucas. He didn't notice Ava Thompson, the 24-year-old waitress with a smile that hid her soul's cracks, quietly watching from a distance, her heart aching as she saw Lucas squirm, as if the boy's pain touched her own hidden wounds. Ava glided between tables, her yellow daisy-dotted apron swaying, her worn sneakers hurrying through the crowd of customers seeking shelter from the rain. She poured coffee, wiped syrup from tables, but her eyes kept drifting to Lucas, as if he were a small flame warming the long days she spent battling her father's illness and her buried dream of journalism. Her smile, though radiant, couldn't hide the exhaustion within, the nights of only 3 hours of sleep, the towering stack of medical bills, and the guilt of not being able to save her father from Parkinson's. When Daniel stood to head to the counter to pay, he left Lucas with a shiny spoon on the table, an object the boy curiously reached for. In a moment of carelessness, Lucas leaned forward, his trembling hands stretching for the spoon, but his wheelchair tipped. The thud of his small body hitting the wooden floor rang out like a knife, cutting through Daniel's breath. The diner fell silent, customers' eyes wide with shock, a few hushed whispers rising, but no one dared move, as if afraid to shatter that fragile moment. Ava, carrying a tray full of dishes, didn't hesitate. The tray crashed down, the sound of shattering plates not slowing her. She rushed forward, dropping to her knees beside Lucas in an instant, her own knees scraping the hard floor. She lifted the boy's head, holding him tightly to her chest, her brown hair falling loose, shielding her worried but love-filled eyes. "It's okay, Lucas. I'm here. You're safe," she whispered, her voice gentle like a lullaby, enveloping the boy's fear. Lucas, though panicked, gradually stopped crying, his small hands clinging tightly to Ava, as if finding a harbor in a storm. Daniel, turning back from the counter, felt his heart stop. He ran over, but what stunned him wasn't just Lucas's fall. It was the sight of Ava, her knees bloodied, holding his son like a treasure, her gaze free of pity, only brimming with profound sincerity. For 4 years since losing Emily, Daniel had built a wall around his heart. But in that moment, as Ava held Lucas, a crack appeared. He felt a spark of light pierce the darkness within, as if her kindness had touched the deepest part of him, a place he thought had long been dead. After Lucas's fall, the rhythm of life at the Sunrise Diner in the outskirts of Asheville seemed to take on a new hue for Daniel Harper and his 6-year-old son. They no longer visited only on Saturday mornings. The visits became more frequent, as if the small cafe had become a sanctuary for Daniel's heart, though he still wore the cold exterior of his navy blue suit. Lucas, with his sparkling blue eyes, seemed to light up more each time he saw Ava Thompson, the 24-year-old waitress whose smile hid deep cracks in her soul. Ava became a beacon in Lucas's small world. She patiently listened to his garbled sounds, each word he struggled to say like a small victory. She bent down to his eye level, her hands gently adjusting the napkin on his lap, and learned to draw smiley faces with honey on his waffles, making Lucas giggle. A rare melody that melted the ice in Daniel's heart. He sat there, his sharp gaze softening, watching Ava with a mix of curiosity and awe. He realized she didn't just treat Lucas with kindness, but with genuine respect. Something even the most expensive doctors, with their promises in sterile clinics, didn't always offer. One morning, as Ava quietly placed a complimentary glass of orange juice beside Lucas's waffle plate, Daniel unexpectedly looked up, his eyes flickering momentarily. "You don't have to do that," he said, his voice low but carrying a rare warmth. Ava smiled, her eyes twinkling like sunlight through rain. "He likes orange juice, and he deserves to be loved, doesn't he?" she replied, her voice gentle but profound. Those words, simple yet deep, made Daniel pause, as if an invisible needle had just grazed the wound he tried to hide. For 4 years since the accident that took Emily, he had grown accustomed to locking his heart, leaving only his duty to Lucas. But Ava, with her uncalculated tenderness, was making that wall tremble piece by piece. What Daniel couldn't see were the storms within Ava. Behind her radiant smile, she carried a wordless burden. Her father, once a renowned investigative journalist in Asheville, was now imprisoned by Parkinson's, his trembling body a reminder of his once glorious days. Ava worked double shifts, her worn-out sneakers moving tirelessly to pay the towering stack of medical bills. But deeper still was the guilt weighing on her soul. Her father's final article, an investigation into corruption in the real estate industry, had led to threats and a brutal attack that she believed triggered his decline. Ava blamed herself for not stopping him, for not being strong enough to protect him from those with power. She kept this secret locked away, afraid that revealing it would hurt those she cared for, including Lucas, the boy she had come to see as a light in her dark days. Each time she drew a honey smiley face for Lucas, she wasn't just bringing him joy. She was finding a sliver of peace for herself. In the small space of the Sunrise Diner, Daniel and Ava, two people bearing unhealed wounds, were unknowingly weaving into each other, like fragile threads awaiting a moment to become a sturdy fabric. Dear audience, take a moment to relax or grab a glass of water, then keep listening to the story. There are still surprises ahead. Comment 1 if you're loving the story, so we know you're still with us. In Ava Thompson's heart, the wounds from her shattered journalism dreams and her father's Parkinson's disease were like cold winds blowing through, though her smile still shone brightly as she moved between the tables of the Sunrise Diner. One evening, as Asheville's sunset faded, she sat quietly on the wooden chair outside the diner's porch, her trembling hands massaging her aching feet, her eyes lost in memories of her father, the man who once ignited her dreams, now just a trembling shadow. Daniel Harper, trading his navy blue suit for a simple gray sweater, approached from the darkness, his eyes no longer sharp, but heavy with a familiar pain. He had learned about Ava through an old friend who once worked with her father, and what he discovered twisted his heart. Her father, a renowned investigative journalist, had written an exposé on corruption in the real estate industry, inadvertently crossing paths with Daniel's company. Though not directly involved, Daniel felt an invisible thread of guilt, as if his silence years ago had contributed to the attack that led to her father's illness. In Ava, he saw a reflection of himself, someone carrying the pain of loss, fighting to protect what remained. Daniel, who had locked his heart after Emily's death, felt that wall tremble before Ava's kindness toward Lucas. He quietly took action, contacting the journalism school in Chapel Hill, where Ava had once dropped out, to fund a full scholarship, hoping to restore her stolen dream. He also hired a nurse to care for her father, wanting to ease the burden on her shoulders. But the secret he held made him hesitate. Years ago, he had met her father during an interview, where the man's sharp questions forced him to confront truths about his industry. "I can't change the past," he said, his voice low but trembling. "But I want to help you build a future." Those words cut through the shell Ava had built to hide her guilt. She blamed herself for not stopping her father from writing that fateful article, which cost him his health. Daniel, with his understanding gaze, seemed to see the nights she cried silently in helplessness. Ava, her heart racing, wanted to refuse, fearing that accepting Daniel's kindness would make her feel like she was exploiting someone else's light. She looked at him, searching for pity, but finding only sincerity, as if he was offering her a piece to heal himself, too. The climax came one morning at the Sunrise Diner, when Lucas, with trembling hands on his wheelchair, pushed a drawing toward her. The scribbled lines depicted Ava, Daniel, her father, and Lucas. A family drawn through the hopeful blue eyes of a child. That drawing, like a bridge connecting two broken hearts, left Ava choked with emotion. Her tears fell, not from sorrow, but from realizing Daniel's kindness wasn't charity. It was a promise of healing. In that moment, she felt she was no longer alone, and Daniel, looking at his son and Ava, realized his heart, for the first time in 4 years, was truly beating again. The Sunrise Diner, once just a stopover, had become a place where lost souls found light in each other. Ava Thompson embarked on a new journey at the journalism school in Chapel Hill, her heart lighter as the dream once buried began to come alive again. Each step she took, though weary, glowed with the light of hope, kindled by the quiet support of Daniel, Harper, and Lucas. Daniel's house in the outskirts of Asheville, once cold like a solitary castle, now brimmed with laughter. The silent hallways now echoed with Lucas's voice, the 6-year-old with sparkling blue eyes, stringing together longer sentences, his halting speech growing clearer. He held a pencil on his own, drawing more detailed pictures, each stroke like a declaration of life. Ava often visited, bringing stories that made Lucas giggle or reading aloud her articles, her voice gentle like a lullaby. One evening, as she shared an article written for children with disabilities, Lucas's eyes lit up, as if she were redrawing his world. Daniel, sitting quietly in the corner, watched them, feeling his heart, once frozen after Emily's death, now beating with warm pulses. He realized he didn't just love Ava's kindness. He loved her very being, a resilient soul that shone despite deep scars. But amid that light, an unexpected challenge swept in like a cold wind. An old colleague of Ava's father reached out, whispering over the phone about a buried secret. Her father's investigative article years ago, exposing corruption in the real estate industry, might have been manipulated to conceal a larger scandal. The truth struck Ava like a knife, reigniting her guilt. She blamed herself for not stopping her father, for letting him pay with his health. She stood at a painful crossroads, pursue the investigation to seek justice for her father, risking harm to Daniel, who might be indirectly linked through his company, or stay silent to protect the blossoming relationship. That night, Ava didn't sleep, her eyes lost in her small apartment, where her father's labored breathing reminded her of duty. She feared losing the light Daniel and Lucas brought, but the truth, for which her father had sacrificed everything, was calling her name. After a long night wrestling with herself, Ava chose to face it. She sought Daniel, her heart pounding, and shared the secret. She braced for anger, for distance, but Daniel only looked at her, his gaze calm yet resolute. "The truth is what matters most. If you need my help, I'm here," he said, his voice low but certain, like a promise rising above all pain. That sincerity shattered the wall of fear within Ava, like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Together, they delved into the past, uncovering old documents, confronting hidden truths. Justice for Ava's father gradually came to light, not only restoring his honor, but also allowing her to release the burden of guilt. Daniel, through this journey, found forgiveness for himself. For the years he avoided the pain of losing Emily. Lucas, with his increasingly radiant smile, became the bridge between them. Each drawing he made a reminder of the new family taking shape. Daniel's house was no longer a temporary refuge, but a true home, where broken hearts found healing, and Ava, for the first time, felt she belonged to a place where love transcended all wounds. Ava Thompson stood on the lecture hall podium at Chapel Hill, her heart racing as her investigative journalism degree became a reality, like a flame her father once kindled now blazing within her. Each article she completed was a bridge to his legacy, soothing the years she thought her dream had died. Lucas, now 8 years old, was no longer confined by halting sounds. With persistent physical therapy, he took faltering steps, his frail legs driven by the fiery will in his sparkling blue eyes. Daniel Harper, who had once buried his heart after Emily's death, felt warmth return each time he saw Lucas run to Ava, his small arms flailing to embrace her. The mansion in the outskirts of Asheville, once silent as a ghost, now echoed with laughter. Lucas's scribbled drawings covered the walls, each stroke a promise of brighter tomorrows. Ava often appeared, bringing humorous stories that made Lucas giggle or reading her latest articles to him, her voice like a breeze dispelling Daniel's gloomy days. One night under the starry sky of Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Daniel held Ava's hand, his eyes filled with a love he thought he'd lost forever. Lucas, in his wheelchair, rolled forward with a radiant smile, his trembling hands lifting a sparkling ring, like a little angel offering a blessing. Ava, her heart overwhelmed, let tears fall freely, glistening like the stars above. She nodded, no words needed, and the three enveloped each other in an embrace, the crickets chirping like a song of rebirth. Daniel, who had once imprisoned himself in the pain of losing Emily, found forgiveness, releasing the chains of guilt that bound him. Ava, who had carried the helplessness of not saving her father, felt peace as new love intertwined with old dreams. Together, they built a charity named after Emily, a beacon for children with disabilities and families struggling through hardship. Ava's father, though frail from Parkinson's, became an advisor, his eyes sparkling with joy seeing his daughter live the dream he once cherished. During foundation meetings, he sat quietly, listening to Ava present plans, as if rediscovering himself through her strong voice. Daniel's house became a true home, filled with lively dinners and Lucas's drawings that told the story of a family woven from kindness. The ending wasn't just a journey of individual healing, Daniel learning to open his heart, Ava reviving her dream, Lucas surpassing his limits, but a profound affirmation. Kindness, however small, can mend the deepest wounds, creating families not bound by blood, but by enduring love. The audience left with warmed hearts, believing that even in darkness, a single sincere act can light up a world. The Sunrise Diner, once a mere stopover, became the start of a story of rebirth, where three broken souls found each other, and love became an unquenchable flame. From the Sunrise Diner, the story of Daniel, Ava, and Lucas teaches us that kindness, no matter how small, can heal the deepest wounds. A single sincere act, like Ava's embrace of Lucas, can light up the world, binding broken people into a family not based on blood, but on love. Daniel learned to forgive himself, Ava reclaimed her dream, and Lucas overcame his limits, reminding us that even in the darkest days, hope endures. Kindness requires no wealth or power. It only needs an open heart. Dear American audience, let this story inspire you to spread love in your life. Have you ever witnessed or performed a kind act that changed everything? Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to ignite more flames of hope together. Thank you for joining us, and keep believing that a simple moment can change a life.